Hi, hello, hi, and welcome to all our hearts and minds. Thank you again for tuning in. We're here to discuss all things that have been on our hearts and minds, the good and the bad, the concerning and uplifting, or just straight talk. We're your hosts, Kimmy, our passionate heart,
What's up?
and then there's me, Jeanette, our mind and chronic overthinker. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's just jump into the checkup. How was your week?
It was okay. It was kind of hectic getting back into the swing of things, but
Mm,
we'll have
it's
to
one of
survive.
those. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
survive. Yeah, it's always tough after a holiday. Like you get those in between, like getting a little bit of break. It's kind of like, oh, I have to get back into the swing of that. What do they
yeah,
call it? The humdrum, the nine to
yeah. The
five,
hustle and the bustle,
the
man.
hustle and the bustle. So I feel you on that. But other than that, you're okay. You're just getting
Yeah,
through it.
no, everything else is good. Everything is,
Okay.
it's all right. But, I'm not looking forward to Monday. I'll just be honest, because that's when traffic will pick back up again. And that's when I'll feel really like I'm in the hustle and bustle. But just enjoying myself in the meantime, in between time, trying not to think of Monday already on a Saturday. Can I
Yeah,
get
yeah,
my
yeah.
day and a half,
Eh,
please, to
Yes,
myself?
enjoy
Please
that
and
time.
thanks.
Please do,
Yeah.
friend. Okay.
How about you? How
That's
you
good.
doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm glad the sun finally came out on Thursday this week. We got some sun in
Yes.
Toronto. It's been very gray for the past week or so. I mean, it's winter, but at least even if it's cold, the sun's usually, out. We're used to getting some sun even when it's winter
Mm-hmm.
in Toronto. So it was a little
A
bit
little
weird.
something,
I was feeling
shoot.
a little bit like, that seasonal depression was like, wait a minute, I need some sun. And Thursday, it was so amazing. Thursday was cold as hell, but the sun was out and it did me really good. But otherwise, yeah, it was a slow week work wise and life wise. I thank God for it all. All is well. All
Mm-hmm.
is good. And just
That's
want to
right.
jump into saying to our listeners, first of all, should have started with this Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year.
So this is our first recording since 2024 has started. So we want to wish all our listeners who stuck with us a Happy New Year and hope you're doing well. And if you're not, good times are coming. And
Mm-hmm.
then just
Hold
before we
in
move,
there. Hold in there. Don't
hold in,
worry.
man, hold in. And
Mm-hmm.
before we jump into our segment, our headlines, I was just going to say, friendly reminder, listeners, please continue to like, rate, comment on Spotify podcasts and Apple podcasts if that's where you listen. If you don't listen there, just go there and drop a note. Either way, those are the two biggest platforms that really bring listeners in, and we want those who are listening, whether you're listening on Castbox or Amazon, wherever you listen, tuned
Mm-hmm.
in. Even if you listen somewhere else, please go on up Spotify podcasts and Apple Podcasts and drop us a note or a rating. We appreciate it very much.
Definitely. Thank
Okay,
you.
so we're going to jump into the headlines,
Yes,
and
please.
we'll first start with ease into it. So we're going to start with the interesting news that has happened in the U.S. An Ivy League, Harvard. We all know Harvard. Even if you're even
Mm-hmm.
a lay person, even somebody under a rock knows the
Right?
educational intellectual institution of Harvard.
Right?
And so recently, I think it was about six or 7 months ago, they hired their first female black woman president,
Mm-hmm.
and there was news, da 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 da, and amazing. Hey, the tides are changing. That was like wonderful news. Hey, for me, I was like, all right, it's about time. Doesn't matter, like either way. It
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't matter what your ethnic background is. If you're working in an intellectual institution, you should, there should not be any bias, regardless, right?
Of
So
course.
now, fast forward, and I think it was earlier this week or the last week of December around that time, it was announced that she would be resigning from her role as president of Harvard. And this is like, I believe it's like 6 months in, like literally, like just 6 months. I'm like, damn, the lady couldn't even get in a year. They couldn't
You know
let
what
her
I
have the
mean?
year.
She's just
and
holding a spot for real. She's holding a spot. Don't.
and now her tenure is the shortest in history of the university.
No. That
Ooh,
hurts.
that really hurts. But she's been under fire because outside of, there's a whole, and I think we talked about this in our episodes when the universities tried to overturn, or were successful in overturning in some of the top Ivy League schools, the affirmative action type of programs that were put in those universities to ensure that certain people of certain backgrounds were not excluded based on bias, And
Mhm.
so, we know affirmative action is a touchy thing. And now the reimagining of it, the remix of it, which is now all these inclusivity and diversity and
Mhm.
initiatives and stuff, they all, I mean, I shouldn't jump them together, but they are from the outside looked at as the same thing. And there are some people and political people, particularly in the US, who are targeting these programs. And that's how that initial issue happened with affirmative action. And that law, that policymaker, I can't remember his role, but I wish I looked up his name, has been, instrumental in some of the things that happened. And
Mhm.
I would say, what's the word, defaming Claudine Gay. But I really think the fire came down is, this is not just Harvard, but a lot of university campuses have been vocal during the war in the Middle East.
Mhm.
And so there was recently a consultation where a lot of all the
Politics. Mhm.
politics, yes, politics, but there was recently a thing. I can't remember what it was called, but there was like a
What, a
and
forum?
she wasn't Harvard wasn't the only one. There was a forum with some representatives who were asking questions of the university, was it because they were concerned, right? However, I think it's not just. I think she came under extra fire when this congressional hearing happened at the camp and she was questioned, and she was answering, no matter how you feel, but she is a representative of the university. She is not answering for Claudine Gay, she is answering for Harvard, the
As a
institution.
representative of
And
the
so
university.
unfortunately she became a target because she's a voice, and so she was, her side, without getting into the quote and the exact wording that she used, which might have obviously inflamed somebody, because she had to resign.
Wow.
So,
Well, when I first heard about this story, when you were telling me about it, I
yeah,
looked farther into it and I was like,
yeah,
miss me with it, Harvard. There's no way that you put her in this position to
mm,
represent such a prestigious university and didn't do any background check. Like, I'm sorry. You want me to believe the
mm,
nonsense and I just can't. I'm finding it very hard to. This is the most prestigious school in the world.
in the world. Mhm.
In the world. I don't It doesn't matter where you go to, okay? You can go to the depths of Bangladesh and they will know about Harvard. So I just don't see how you didn't do any background checks. No, what
Yeah,
happened
and
was
so
you
that's
put the
how it's
black woman
BS.
to represent
Mm,
Harvard as a
mm,
space holder for someone you really want representing the university. And in the meantime, you put her in a position where she had to be professional and stand
yeah.
as the president of Harvard and make statements that you have directed her to make. And now when the shit hits the fan,
Mm-hmm.
Harvard wants to say that she's plagiarizing.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
course she's gonna resign if she has any sort of an ounce for her
Mm-hmm.
career. Any sort
Mm-hmm.
of anything
And
for
her
her
own
career.
personal mental safety, her psychological
All
safety.
that too. All that
Yeah,
too. You're not gonna embarrass me. No,
yeah.
sir.
And
No.
in her resignation letter, she cited personal attacks fueled by racial animus and stated that she wished to act in the best interest of the Harvard community and to enable it to navigate current tensions sparked by the Israel Gaza war. And so, sorry to hear this, but girl, at least she still has her job. She's not the president of Harvard, but she still is a tenured professor to continue her role
Yeah, but
there.
they're not gonna make it easy for her while she's there.
Yeah, it might be tough, but you know what? She's,
Well,
it's a lot less pressure, I would say, especially with the backlash from the congressional hearing.
hmm
So, prayers up. She'll be all right. I was
she'll
looking at
be
her
all right. She's
resume.
smart enough to figure her way around this. If she's
Yeah,
smart
she
enough
was
to
a
get her
dean.
backside in president position of Harvard, she'll be all
It's
right.
okay. At this point, I wouldn't even. if Harvard was able to be pressured to, or who, I mean, I'm doing a lot of assumptions here, but here's my assumption, my point of view, people. This is not facts. She was pressured. There was pressure on the university after that hearing, and everybody wants to pull in the affirmative action, racial diversity thing, and all of that amalgamated to her being like, I ain't got no time. I don't want to deal no more of this bullshit. And she put
Yeah.
in her resignation. It's not worth it. And
No,
she has a
especially if
tenured.
she can still have a career after this in whatever particular field that she
She
has
wants,
a
yeah.
tenured in,
Hmm.
right? So why am I going to let you destroy my integrity, my career, everything that I've worked so hard for to build, dragging me through what, I guess, a hearing to see if I did plagiarize or not? Nah, screw all of that. I understand what my role was. I filled a 6 month gap. Now you can get who you really want to be here. But what I do want to say in this story, what really rang to me was, little black girls, you can
Mm.
do anything your heart desires. Anything. Anything. She made history.
Hmm.
Okay? She made history being the president and the face of such a prestigious school. So we could do anything we want. We just have to put our mind to it. That's it. That's it. And so she kept it pushing, but and so will we. You'll be all
Yeah,
right,
she'll be all right.
Miss Gay. You'll be all right.
She went through a rigor. This is Harvard. She went through a rigorous process to get this role,
And so
and so
how
to
is it now
say,
we're figuring out that she
yeah,
plagiarized?
so
Like,
that's
miss
where
me with it. I
I'm
can't.
calling want bullshit. But
Yeah, we
we'll
know
let
what
that.
it is. We
You
know
know
what
what
it
it
really
is.
is.
We'll keep it pushing though. All right, she'll be all right. She was like the dean of social sciences there. Her resume is pristine. She's all good. All
Yeah.
right, so next we'll move on to another big story that
Mm-hmm.
came up globally is the Epstein list.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff came out. It's not in its entirety, I don't think, but a full. I think there's some anonymous people, the Jane Does who are in that
Mm-hmm.
case, have want to remain anonymous. So there's a process going on to keep those people anonymous before they release the rest. But some of them came out already, and names that popped up and allegations was obviously Bill Clinton, but we been know he's dirty.
Yeah, he's a freak.
He's a dirty old man.
Dirty old freak.
The one that
Mm-hmm.
surprised me because the man is the paraplegic is
Right?
Stephen Hawking.
Like, how is that even? I don't know.
I was like, what? But supposedly he likes to see naked midgets do math
How
problems on a blackboard or chalkboard that was too high. I was like, that is very specific. But if you're somebody like that, I'd assume your kink is very specific.
Wow.
So interesting. Of course, Donald Trump is on there. We already knew about that. I mean, y'all can look it up. It's like everybody who's who. Tyra Banks is on there. I'm sure Oprah is on there. Michael Jackson's on there. Like everybody who's on there. But if anybody who watched the documentary, or even people who follow this case, a lot of people know is that really what Epstein was doing outside of the sex trafficking and all of those awful things that he was, that he did with younger girls, is that his real operation was blackmailing people in power. And so he would have parties, he would bring people over, obviously entertain them, give them whatever they want. And if whatever they want falls into the questionable category, i.e., Bill Clinton, who likes them young, then,
Just disgusting.
he has a lot of power. If you have power over somebody who's powerful, you're the puppet master, right?
The corruption of it all.
The
It's
corruption of it
just
all, we know it's so deep, but
deep
they're
and
so.
just disgusting. And this
Mm,
list, like, I am really. I know that a part of this list is probably people that didn't really know what was
yes.
going on behind the scenes. I know there's
Mm,
probably a portion,
mm,
but to just be on the list and associated, like,
mm.
that's what I've been noticing is association. That's a big thing now. Anything
Mhm.
that you're associated to can bring your career to its knees.
Yeah, but it's like
Literally.
everybody. So it's kind of like who? It's like literally everybody. Like I see Naomi Campbell, I see Cameron Diaz. Right now, the list that I see, there's 90 people, and there's only 4 people redacted. Like whoever's been redacted, interesting. And that's interesting. We'll see, but that we're like, I think when they fully release the documents, then you can really get a better idea. But I don't know. I don't think I feel like if there is something really scandalous in them, we would have a preview like of people who were in the court cases or whatever would have said it, hinted at it already. So I kind of feel
Right.
like it's
And the
just
people
going
who
to be
are
a list.
redacted paid a hefty price to be redacted. You
Yeah, we don't
understand?
know. We don't know those four
They
people.
had
I'm
to have
curious.
been, because what would be motivating to him? Look at all the other people he's letting loose on his list. What's motivated to him? Money.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Some sort of trade off of some way, somehow.
Mm.
But if this whole list thing is just so, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me. But anyways, it's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we'll stay tuned to when everything is fully released. I think they said maybe middle of January,
Mm.
but we'll stay tuned for the Epstein list. Next was, we had to add a little levity, a little jokey joke, and our boy Boosie the clown, Boosie's just always causing a ruckus.
Too much.
Always causing a ruckus. Recently, Boosie went to go see The Color Purple, which is out right now, and showing everywhere in theaters. I actually went to check it out in a noon showing today, just because I'm like,
Mm.
I really wanted to give it my support. And so he announced on Twitter, which I mean, I know he's been doing well for being on social media. Great, but I don't know. Like he didn't need to say, him going on. I guess he wanted to start the dialogue, but he knows anytime he gets into the LGBTQ, everything else in
Mhm.
between, it's gonna start something because now that's his thing. Like that's another thing. I'm like, as a reputation, do you want to know about be known as a guy who's always like? Because after a while, it starts to look questionable. Like why is this keeping you up at night? Like why? Like But
Right.
anyway, I'm trying to
Have you
find the
had
original tweet.
experiences, Bootsy? Have you?
Right? It's just it's. I think if you talk about it too much, just a
Well, I
little
think he just
too
makes it like he uses it for clout a lot, and I
clout. now
don't.
now I now it's obvious. Like yeah, you can get and
Yeah,
he's done very well with it. So hey, I
exactly.
mean,
He's made a
a
lot of
man
money
has to
off of
feed.
it.
A man has to put food on the table, I guess. So anyway, he started. So this is I found a tweet that started it. He said, "I had to walk out of this Color Purple movie, and 2 other older couples walked out also because I had my little girls with me, and it seemed like a rainbow. He put a rainbow love story. Good acting, but whoever wrote the script is pushing the narrative hard. As a parent, I will not let my little girl watch this film. And first, I'll stop there and say." That is fine. As a parent, you should, and it is your choice to control whatever your kids consume because you're raising them in a way that you deem fit. So that I don't have a problem with that. That's fair. But the
Hmm.
only thing is like the thing is this is a classic this book was written in the early
Hmm.
1980s. Okay?
Hmm.
So the narrative was always a narrative. So
Hmm.
pretty much this story has been around since 1980.
Right.
And so to say that whoever wrote the script is pushing a narrative, like the script is based on a story that already existed for over 40 years. So kind of stupid, but I mean, Boosie's not known as the most brilliant guy, but there's nothing wrong if you don't want your little girls to watch this film, but it also isn't a movie for a child. I mean, we as kids saw Little Purple by accident because it was on TV or whatever, but I was traumatized by that movie. I watched that movie as a very young child. It was on
Yeah,
TV
me
or something,
too.
and I
Actually.
was
Hmm.
very traumatized. So if he knew the original story, why did you even go to watch that movie in the first place? Because that movie starts with her supposed father like like pretty much raping her.
Hmm.
You see her husband like brutally beating her. Like so if you know The Color Purple the movie, forget a book. If you know the original movie, you shouldn't even have walked in there with your little girls.
And one thing I wanted to say about the color purple in general, like the
Mm,
movie.
Hmm.
It had notes of lesbianism
Yes. Yeah.
in
It
the
was there.
actual book.
It
It's
was even more.
actually
It's more pronounced in the book. Yeah, I've read the book.
a lot
Yeah.
more in the book.
Yeah.
I think the first time we saw the movie Color Purple, they I don't think that being homosexual was as accepted as it is today, and so they kind of glossed
They
over.
glossed it over. Yeah.
They really glossed over it in the actual Color Purple the movie, and
Hmm.
so I think maybe he has an issue with homosexual people. However, he can't quite come to grips with what that issue is. Like, I don't think he really understands what his problem is with the LGBTQA plus. Sorry if I
Mm,
forgot anybody. Community. I think he doesn't understand why he doesn't like why he's saying the things that he's saying, and he really doesn't have a problem with them either, because he'll tell you that as well.
yes, that's what he
so
says. Yeah.
so I think he's in a state of confusion of what he
Hmm.
thinks he's supposed to say and supposed
Yeah.
to do and how he really feels, and
Hmm.
he displays that often. In terms of the movie being for children,
No, absolutely not.
I think I saw it maybe around 9 or 10
Yeah,
years old,
I was
maybe.
like very young when I saw this movie because I was
And
traumatized.
I knew right off the rip that this parts of this movie wasn't meant for me as a
Mm,
child.
mm.
You know, as a child, your parents will tell you this is big people things. This is big people conversation. This is something that is beyond my realm as a child, and as my parent, what they want me to be exposed to. And so I don't know why you would take your child up in the movie. I
On
think
purpose.
I think you should have gone on your own
Mm.
first, and maybe even took it a step farther and saw the original Color Purple, the movie, before going into this. Like, I know a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, the Color Purple," but maybe you needed
But
to
then,
rewatch it
but
from a
like,
different
but to your
perspective.
point, we just called out in the first one. It's very if you're not paying it, it's very glossed over. If you're not reading into it, you're not gonna think nothing. Like, and what we're talking about, listeners, is that Shug Avery and Celie are actually they are lovers for a little bit at some point in the book, right? And that's hinted at in the 1980. Well, I don't remember which year, 83 or 85. I can't remember the exact year that the movie came out. But if you saw that movie and then you skip forward 40 plus years now and go into this movie, you will, like, as somebody who just saw it, it is a little bit more pronounced, but it's nothing graphic, it's nothing weird. It's very still pretty light, but it's just more clear that okay, they are in love with each other.
Right, exactly, because the
Yeah.
times have changed and there's more acceptance,
Hmm.
and so they can feel free to kind of express it in whichever clear way that they want
Hmm.
to. But Bootsy, like, I don't know why you bring your child. No, but here's the thing: is that you won't bring your girl child to see the movie Color Purple,
Okay. Yep. See it.
but you'll get a prostitute, okay,
Exactly.
to deal with your, what is it? Not preteen, just over the
Like
13
14, 13 or 14, which both either
year
way.
old son. This is a grown ass prostitute, okay? For your 13, 14-year old son. That says volumes to me, Boosie. It does. And you acting this way towards this movie says a lot to me too. It says a lot to me. But Bootsy, just get over yourself. Like, sir, listen, you might not like their actions as, being a homosexual or a part of
Yeah.
the community or whatever, but they are people and they can go about and live their life. You don't have to
Yeah.
be involved with that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think he's battling himself. Like, there's a conflict within himself
Yeah, you're right. 'Cause it's
where,
not even clear what he's trying to say. Because obviously, when you go to the net, you want to get attention and clicks and everything else
and he
in
sure
between
does know how to get those
engagement,
clicks.
and you will
Yeah.
get it. But you also know every time this is not a new formula for him getting attention in the media.
No,
People
no.
will come and gather you together, and you never have a response because, like I said, you could. The fact that you even sat through the first half of that movie and didn't walk out with your two young girls is
Thank
questionable.
you.
They're 7 and 9 years old. They're pretty young. That's pretty young to me. You
Seven
should
and
be
nine
taking
years
them.
old.
You should be taking them to see Trolls. Like, what the hell? You're
I
taking
don't
them to see The
understand
Color
it.
Purple? I don't
I don't
understand it.
understand it. I don't
So
understand it. And I
I'm
don't
gonna
like to
go
have this type of negative say around a very iconic movie in the black
right. It
community.
kind of, but I
Yeah,
think,
you're trying to taint it, and I'm not going to allow you to. So,
but the
on
thing
with it,
is,
Bootsy.
on with it. But I mean, he does say he enjoyed the acting and the performances, but he had to say his rainbow piece. But I'm gonna end this segment because we don't want to give his nonsense too much attention. To, like we said,
Yeah.
there's also a part of it where he's probably trying to just get some social media engagement,
Yeah, he's stupid.
especially
Mm-mm,
around a
stupidness.
popular cultural moment, which The Color Purple is. Like, people who don't know, I want to wrap this up with how T.S. Madison gathered him together. But people who don't
Gather
know,
him, TS, please.
The Color Purple is an iconic movie. If you don't know, you know. Like, I don't know how you don't know, but people who are listening who are from the non-black, it's like every black, like, it's a question. People question your blackness if you haven't seen The Color Purple. Like, okay,
You
forget the
haven't
book.
read the book. You
If you haven't
haven't.
read the book, that's
You
fine.
don't
But
know
at
who the
least
actors are, the
Steven
actresses.
Spielberg,
My
Steven
God.
Spielberg directed. Whoopi Goldberg stars. What's her name? Oprah stars. Um, Danny Glover, which I couldn't stand him since that movie. I was like, that man is so awful. He traumatized me. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, a cultural phenomenon from book to movie to 1980s movie to Broadway play. It went on Broadway 2 times. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe the musical that is in theaters now is based on the second iteration of the Broadway show. I saw it
See?
today. It being a musical softened it a lot. I'm not mad. I think as a movie, it's fun because it's a musical. So you're hearing beautiful
Yeah.
Fantasia and Danielle Brooks. They all have beautiful voices. Even Taraji surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
She was singing beautifully. So it's different. It makes it a little bit more digestible. If to say it doesn't feel as traumatizing as the original
Mm-hmm.
movie. But yeah. So anyway, we'll wrap this up with how TS gathered Lil Boosie. So, Lil Boosie, you sat there with your daughter while Celie's daddy took her second child that he fathered and gave it to the pastor and his wife. You sat there with your daughters when Mr. came and brought her from her daddy at 14 years old. You sat there with your daughter while Mr. enslaved Celie to cook and clean his nasty house and children. You sat there with your daughter and watched Mr. beat, sexually destroy, and drag Celie all over the floor. You sat there with your daughter and watched Mr. bring his side chick into the house with Celie. But you got up to leave when you saw Celie finally finding love and compassion and some sort of relief from Mr.'s prison. Then you come to social media to talk about what about the kids campaign and you've been on and attempt to use God to justify you and the people who stand with you. And they call us delusional. Anyway, that was pretty
Gather
much
him.
gathered.
Gather
Like, it's
him,
simple. Like,
please.
I think you sat too long in that movie to decide to leave with your 7 and 9 year old. But anyway, we'll move on. Boosie's gonna
Gather
Boosie.
him, please.
Boosie will be
Yes.
boosieing. And then finally, this is a little bit annoying. It kind of has to do with something that I wanted to leave in 2023, but it won't go because social media is the devil and it won't
Yeah.
let anything die. And
No.
so on January 2nd, this woman fixed herself to come on her social media and talk about things. She shares things she does for her husband that most, I'm going to say in air quotes, modern women won't agree with. First of all, I'm going to caveat that this woman is a wrap up, has a wrap up head. So that tells me she's like into some type of interesting church culture,
Huh.
or maybe an Israelite or some of those type of
Mm-hmm.
cultures where they wrap up their head. So that already told me, when I went on her page, she's like looks like an Israelite because of the way she dresses and her head is wrapped up. So obviously in these type of groups, they tend, if you're in any religious group, let's say regardless of if what we want to associate them with, this is a whatever religious group, it usually relies and asks women to mostly lean towards the traditional side, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
I think similar, and there's nothing. However, somebody decides to have their marriage, that's like, this is 2024. I don't care how you want to be a wife to your husband, or how your husband wants to be husbanding for you. Like, that's your
Mhm.
choice. Whatever it is you agreed, this is your marriage, and that's the perfect thing of the marriage. It's between two people,
Mhm.
A and B. So whatever that
Mhm.
makes you happy and
And God
comfortable
makes three.
and
Mhm.
satisfied, yep, then you
Mhm.
do that. But for you to come here and get the girlies riled, try and get the girls riled up, it's like,
All up in their
do you,
panties.
boo? Do you, boo? Because we've been, like I said, in 2023, 2022, we've been seeing these stupid debates, because
You
it's
know
kind of
what
like,
I and how I feel about these stupid debates is,
mm,
for myself, I'm a mixture. I'm a blend. I
yeah,
am a modern woman because I'm
mm,
out here working. Okay.
mm-hmm,
However, I am traditional in some of my thoughts. And it's
yeah,
only because that's how I want to show my husband love. And I
yes,
understand his love language, right?
mm-hmm,
And so when you're in a relationship, you want to care for the
person,
person
yeah,
just as you would want them to care for you, right? And I always say that you can't expect what you're not willing to give.
mm,
So, we have to have each other's back,
of course,
and that is in all ways, shapes, and form. I could be
mm-hmm,
cooking and I can't open a jar. I know he's strong. Here, I give him the jar. Take the jar, no, please, and open it for me. I'm using that as a very silly example, but I'm saying, however, your marriage or you want your relationship
yes,
to be in work
mm,
that
mm,
works for you, that keeps you guys engaged with each other, loving each other, and keeping God in the center of your union, then do what
yeah,
makes what whatever works for you.
mm-hmm,
There are some women who, as of late, I've noticed in the last decade or so, who don't want to work and don't want to go out in the
yeah, it's a
workforce,
new thing.
and
You're right. It's a new thing for the young generation. It's like, they're
they
like,
want to
what?
stay at home, and
Mm-hmm,
they don't want to be the breadwinner, you
mm-hmm,
know. And for those women who are, blessed enough to find a man that can financially support a whole household in this day and age,
right, in this economy.
in this economy, kudos to you, girl. Kudos to you. But most women have to work because of this economy here, right? And so I am the modern side of me is independent, and I like to have my own, and I like to make my own, and I like to be doing something with myself
Mm,
other than just being a wife and a caregiver and all that, which is a job that it's serious.
yes,
It's
it's a
harder than most
serious.
jobs that are out here. Okay,
Mm-hmm,
so and I totally respect those women that stay home and keep the house prim and proper and run it like a well oiled machine. Me, on the other hand, I use my abilities in a variety of ways, but my husband also has abilities and he's not afraid to use them, and so we kind of work as a team. I think that's what marriage is supposed to be about, is like an actual team. Like you and that person are on a team. And
mm-hmm,
so things that have to get done. Period. You know what I'm saying? Like they just got to get done. So you got to pull together and do that in whatever suits you. So I
mm,
don't think anybody should be telling anybody how to formulate their marriage and what works for them. It might work for you. That's great if you want to be a traditionalist and you
hey,
don't work, you don't see outside other than to go in the garden. Hey, kudos to you, girl. But if you're like me, where I am a blend and I want to utilize my brain and my education and my skills and in other ways outside of the home. And as long as you have that support, then I don't really see why everybody is so intrigued on
mm-hmm.
telling everybody how to live their
There
life.
we go. That's my issue. I don't have a problem. I don't care what you people decide to, how you decide, again, like you said, to create happiness in your marriage. Hey, I'll do it. I don't. My thing is, I don't need to know about it, and I don't
No,
need you comparing it to say that there's a tone. Like, here's what I do that modern people won't like. Like, I don't give a shit.
I
Bitch.
really don't.
So anyway, we wanted to leave these folks in 2023, but it's
It's
January 2nd.
unfortunate. They're still
January
gonna,
2nd, they couldn't even give us a second day, 5 days. Like, they're
yeah,
on a
well,
roll.
to be quite
So
honest, they kind of have been pushed to the side with the next topic because
oh, we're gonna talk about that. Yeah.
Mr. Man
Okay.
came through. Okay, he came
Okay.
through. And
So
so
yeah, so
we
I
can
think
forget about
let's
that talk for just 1 minute because this man right here, he set it off in 2024. Yeah? Set it off.
pretty much we're gonna move on. That's our headlines, that's our wrap. And we're gonna move into our first segment. And this week we're gonna be doing a lot of mercy.
Listen.
And if Kim hinted at it, this is like the thing everybody's talking about. The internet was broke on
Yeah.
January 2nd, 2024. Katt Williams said, I got the gap for everybody, and everybody's getting sprayed. Everybody's
I
getting
got
licked
the
down.
time today. I got the time today. Okay, because
Hmm.
he doesn't do this often. So
No, he
honestly,
doesn't do interviews or podcasts like that.
like,
So, all right. So let me
whew.
just break it down and before we get into it. So, just some context. Katt Williams went to Shannon Sharp's podcast, Club Shay Shay, I believe is the
Yep.
name of the show. And it opened. The interview was 2 hours. I have to stress this. The interview clocks in at 2 hours and 45 minutes, damn near almost 3 hours. Okay, people?
And I watched
And
the entire thing because at
oh,
first
yeah,
I
I
only
did.
did half. I watched the
Yeah.
entire thing. I went back, watched the hour and a half plus the extra hour and a half. Trust me. Mm-hmm.
So he went on the show, and let me tell you, not even 2 minutes in, and he's firing on all cylinders. He
All of
was
them.
running circles around Shannon Sharp. Shannon didn't know what the hell
What
to
to
do,
do with
but
himself,
he did one thing I
Lord?
appreciated is sit down and listen. That's one
And
thing I
yeah, just
appreciated.
listen and laugh. Listen
Listen and
and
laugh.
laugh. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so essentially, I think, okay, well, at least I'm not going to go through everything, but the context of how he opened was pretty much he saw a few episodes that had a lot of some high profile comedians. And this is a new podcast, and it's very, I'll say, Club Shay Shay is very male centric and targeted towards men. And he's done, and Shannon Sharp has done some really good interviews, even though it's not for me. I've seen some
Mm-hmm.
clips where I'm like, this is really good content, and he has a good way
Yeah.
of getting his
Yeah,
guests to
he is
open
pretty
up.
good at he
He's
is a
really good
pretty
at
good
talking to
interviewer. Yeah.
male.
Mm-hmm.
At least he knows how to appeal to men and getting them to open up. He's been doing a good
That's
job.
true. Yeah.
And so Katt opens by saying, that's amazing, you really do a good job, that's uncomfortable, and you've had some people here that I want to address because they were really comfortable. So they were comfortable, so I want to get here comfortable on your platform, since they were on this
Mm-hmm.
big platform, and share my piece. And so then he goes in on some
His
comments
piece,
that
please. This man had an AK-24 at everybody's head in this plea in the first half an hour.
mhm.
Okay, he let
Ooh,
off
the
so
first
much
half an
different
hour.
rounds.
Ooh, I
Oh
couldn't breathe.
my!
Like, Shannon couldn't even talk. Shannon
He
was
couldn't even
holding.
catch a breath.
He
Okay,
was he was holding on for dear life. Okay, Shannon Sharp was holding on to the couch for dear life.
for the
Katt was
first half
on a
an hour, I
roll.
was wondering: is he breathing? Is he breathing? Is Shay Shay breathing?
Is
Because
he
no, for
okay?
real, blink twice.
All he
Because
could do was sip. All he could do was sip his cognac and nervously
just
chuckle.
sit down and just he had to gather himself real quick. Like but
It was so much.
not
Katt,
a word. Okay, this machine gun just went off And
he
And
sprayed.
Shay Shay had to he just had to sit there like, what is happening?
Okay,
What is
so
happening?
I'm just gonna call out the main. I want to just call out the main things to me, like the main things where there's details and receipts and everything, and then we can kind of just discuss overall. So, and first of all, this broke the internet because first of all, this is Katt Williams. Like people,
Yeah,
y'all don't know. I don't know how you don't know, but if you don't know, Katt Williams is one of the funniest comedians.
I've
Period. Like
ever come
he
across.
is so funny. I'll be honest and say his last special, I was not a fan, but a lot of specials that I've seen in the past year, I was not a fan. They were not that
Hmm.
great. Even Dave Chappelle just came out with a special, and I was like, Dave. So hey, maybe it's a trend. Like everybody's just getting lazy because Netflix is throwing money at them.
Right?
But so anyway, very brilliant, very hilarious. Like 100% brilliant. He's on the Dave Chappelle level, as far as I'm concerned. And
Yeah.
so he called out Cedric the Entertainer, who was on the show, because Cedric
Mm-hmm.
the Entertainer stole jokes from him and some of
Mm-hmm.
Katt's friends. He called out. I want to start with Ricky Smiley because for me the Ricky Smiley thing was completely egregious
Oh
because
my God. He said he
I was
can't.
offended. I was offended for Cat. I was
Yeah.
like, how could he? So Ricky Smiley was on the show as well earlier, probably a year prior, and came on Club Shay Shay, that same platform, and had the nerve to fix his mouth
Mm-hmm.
to see that he was supposed to play Money Mike
Out
and
of
that
here with
he was
that,
off.
yo. Get out of here.
Like where? How Sway?
It wouldn't even make any sense. It
Doesn't
wouldn't
make
make any sense. It wouldn't
okay.
make. It
And
just
so
wouldn't
that
work.
was, to me, I feel like the people who got roasted the most with receipts, where people are like like there's no contending and people are being quiet and none of them can say that Cat's lying,
Thank
is
you.
Ricky Smiley, Cedric the Entertainer, and Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey got it pretty hard as well.
And Kevin Hart.
And Kevin Hart, for
Mm-hmm.
me the Kevin Hart stuff wasn't that, because he's been saying that about Kevin Hart. So that wasn't really that groundbreaking for me as like, okay. So those are the three, and those are his, and and he's gonna have the most info on that because those are people in his industry. Those are people he's come up in comedy, stand-up comedy with. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was really interesting. And his perspective, I appreciated his perspective on everything. And I'll say, here's what I got out of this, because I don't really like getting into the dirt of celebrities, because I don't those people are rich as fuck. That has nothing to do with
Rich
me,
people
right?
problems. Mm-hmm.
Rich people problems, that's it, right? But for me, what I got out of it is that this is the funniest I've seen him in a while. Like he was talking truth, but he was putting on a show in terms of the comedy as well, as far as I'm concerned. But he was also real. Like he was real about his upbringing and everything. It was really interesting. I didn't know his background like that. Like I knew he came from Ohio and he kind of made his way to the West Coast, but I didn't know that journey, like him being in a religious family and stuff like that. So first of all, I appreciated learning a little bit more of his background. I appreciated the comedy, and I appreciate, damn, this man is witty as fuck. Like, listen, he gave me at least three like classic one-liners. Okay,
To
classic, and
it, like Cat,
like he
I've
gave me
always
some
loved him.
one-liners.
I've
Yeah,
always loved him, like
he's very
from the
brilliant.
rip,
Mm-hmm.
because he said in his interview,
Mm-hmm.
he said, I'm having a conversation. In his stand up, that's why it's so funny, is because he's having a conversation. Some of the best moments I've ever like bust a gut laughing
Mm.
is
Oh,
when
him.
you're
Oh,
having just a
his specials.
conversation with your
Yeah, yeah,
friend or
sure.
with your family, and something comes up or something familiarizes in your brain or something like that, and
Mm.
through conversation. And so he always crossed me as a very intelligent man. He came up. He sure did. And he did
Mm-hmm.
it the right way, because what it seems to me is they never got to him, and he never sold his soul.
He didn't want to,
And
at least.
well, from all the truth telling that he told in this interview in the first
Mm-hmm.
half an hour,
Mm-hmm.
listen, he's been the realist from get go, from
Mm-hmm.
jump. Not the first time he said these things
No,
about
no,
these
not at
people.
all.
He's
No.
not at all. He's always, and consistency. That's why I like him as a comedian, because he's
Mm-hmm.
always been consistent. Now, some of the heavy hitters that he mentioned, like Steve
Mm.
Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer, they kind of fell off, and I find that they didn't have the same pizzazz that he has to remain for so long a comedian.
Mm.
That's why both Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer veered off into acting, and they veered off into other things to use their comedy in. However, this guy's been doing stand up forever. Okay, and he has material that a lot of people, you can see in their acts, the younger generation, that was an inspiration. I think he had a lot of things to get off his chest,
He clearly,
and
as a
nobody
point, as
was quite
Shannon,
ready. You
Shannon
know,
fucked around and found out that Cat
yeah,
had some shit to
yeah,
say.
because you let certain people on that show, Shannon, you sure did. And
Mm-hmm.
they had a lot to say about Katt Williams, and Katt Williams had time today, and he came and he said, "Yeah, well, here's what I think."
Mm-hmm.
And it literally broke the internet in half. Okay, and people will be talking about this for a long time, because a lot of what he said, nobody, like you said, nobody has come back and refuted it. Everybody is trying to sweep it under the rug. And at
Mm-hmm.
one point, Ricky Smiley was kind of saying, kind of in agreement with what, from his response, it sounded
Mm-hmm.
like he was kind of in agreement with the course of events that happened that Katt Williams mentioned. So I don't know. Kat, you need to warn people next time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that you're gonna come out, with a vengeance like this. Like, I wasn't ready. There was a lot of one-liners, but there was a lot of truth in what he said. And if now you'll see on the internet, people are putting together compilations and collages of what Cat Williams is talking about. So I feel like he's, keeping comedy relevant in
Yeah.
in this whole situation. But some of those jokes, you know you shouldn't, like, that, like, it's not nice. Like, it's not nice.
Mm.
How you're saying that Cedric the Entertainer, he couldn't take his arms away from his stomach?
Mm. Like a
Really?
walrus. See, that's what he said. Like a
Say,
walrus.
yeah, a walrus. That's right. Nikki's Ricky Smiley saying that he's better in a dress. He's a
Mm,
better comedian in a
he
dress.
comedian. He said he's never played a convincing role as a man. That's what he said to Rick
Wow.
about Ricky Smiley
He
and
talked
Tyler
about
Perry.
some honorable mentions where he talked about Kim Kardashian at one point, said a little
Mm.
something about Kanye a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He came for the jugular on a variety of people, like Diddy, mentioned his
Mm.
ass.
Mm.
Tiffany Haddish,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what you did him. I, I don't know what you did him, but
And let's be honest. Okay, so we kind of went through like the main points, but I also want to be acknowledged, at least from my point of view. For me, I think he spoke his truth as he understood it, and he sees it, and he's been in the game for many, many years, probably over 30 years at least. And fine, but I also, obviously, there's a lot of, I don't want to use the word bitter, but there's a lot of emotion there. He's been, Cat's been through a lot, and when you're in a career such as stand up, which is tough, show business in general is tough, but stand up in particular is, to me, the really the hardest art in terms of being an artist in stand up, because it's just you. At the end of the day, it's just you, one person, entertaining a crowd, and that's all on you. You own that, right? So
right,
I think, and then obviously he loves acting, and he's good at acting. And I've always felt with the Tiffany Haddish thing is that, and maybe he, like Kevin Hart, he feels that, like, okay, Kevin Hart was a plant, and Kevin Hart planted Tiffany. and he has a problem with that, and that's him for him to have a problem. But I think, like, at the end of the day, outside of the joke stealing and stuff, what God has for you, and as somebody, the way he spoke, I know he believes this. What God has for you
Mm-hmm.
is yours, and
Exactly.
so it's hard if you believe that. Like, if you believe that, like, somebody like Tiffany Haddish shouldn't bother you.
No, and I think what what I got from Kat was that he was letting a lot of it off of his chest that has accumulated
Yeah.
over several
Yes. Yes.
years,
He was letting some stuff off
at
his
least
chest.
a decade from when they
Mm.
started saying that he was on crack and
Mm.
he was losing it and he was crazy and all these things. And sometimes when you're walking with the truth,
Mm. It's tough. Yeah.
as it's tough to have all these people coming at you, and it's even harder to like stay, like, to have integrity and to still have a good character and morals and ethics, and see how all these some of the at certain parts of his career, I'm sure he was looking around like, why do they have that and I'm doing the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, why is this lot of mercy for me? Because I was not ready. I
Ready? I
was
was.
not ready. And I will be paying closer attention to Shannon. Yes, I will.
Mm.
I will. Because I've seen certain clips as well outside of Katt Williams that I was like, oh, you're
Yeah.
oh,
So good. I've
okay.
seen some good clips from that show. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that he took everybody by storm. And I think that a lot of people don't really know what to say. Like,
Mhm.
they don't know what to say. Uh, he let the
There's been
cat
a
out
lot
of
of
the bag for
one
a
thing I
lot of
could say.
stuff.
One thing
Mm,
I could say is he brought a lot of people from the forest. He
he sure
brought
did.
Kevin Hart said something. Tiffany said something. Ice Cube even. Ice Cube had to, like I said, I felt like Ricky Smiley got fucking decimated.
Sure did.
Ricky
Sure did.
Smiley got decimated. Okay, Kat said, "You know what? Your son just died, and you decided to come up on here in Club Shay Shay and tell a bold faced
Face
lie."
lie.
I
Bold
was
face
like,
lie.
"Damn, Kat, ooh."
Horrible. Horrible.
So yeah, so what was I gonna say? I don't remember where I was going with this, but anyway, yeah, he came on the show, and yeah, he had some stuff to get. Here's what I like. I heard that he has a tour coming up. He's been touring because I've seen clips of his tour from last year. So
Mm-hmm.
his tour, he's doing a tour right now. So those seats are very much well and sold, completely sold out, right? And I'm happy to see him again, and I hope that this leads to a lot more Katt Williams, and I would love to see him acting more. I know he's been doing he's never stopped with comedy, but I actually think he's a brilliant actor. I would say if there's the last thing where he actually won an Emmy for playing the alligator man in that show Atlanta
Oh,
on
wow.
on Donald Glover's show Atlanta, which was epic. It was an epic episode, and I was so happy to see him there, and that he was rewarded for it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, but yeah, I want to see more of Kat, and I want him to be able to do his thing. Obviously, he's pissed off some people, but I think when he calls shit out that's going on, their dirtiness, their like nastiness at whatever they've done behind the scenes, you have that extra scrutiny. So I've
Yeah.
seen since this interview all the clips were the word by word clips that Cedric the Entertainer did from Cat Williams' joke, side by side.
Literally.
There was a side by side joke of Mark Curry hanging with Mr. Cooper. Mark Curry, and the joke he did, and the joke that what's his face, Steve Harvey did, that joke that he stole,
Yeah.
and a side by side of hanging with Mr. Cooper show and Steve Harvey's show, which was pretty much a ripoff of hanging with Mr. Cooper,
He ripped off his entire career.
which is
Literally.
whew.
Because after that, we didn't really hear much from Mark
No, we didn't
Curry.
hear from him anymore. I
No. And
actually
I
saw it
think
on the. Mhm.
I think that, having your entire, like, could you imagine, you think of something so innovative and someone comes along and steals that entire career? It could really, affect you mentally. And I think Mark Curry, honestly, you're a really good man because you could have called him out and destroyed his career a long time ago.
Well, he called. There's an interview. The interviewed surfaced where he was telling somebody about that happened. So it's out there now, and Cat just brought more attention to it. And
Yeah.
Cat, he's also touring with Cat, because I saw some videos again from the Cat's tour where he was doing some comedy, and he's still funny as hell. So Cat
Mm-hmm.
treats his friends very, very well, and they, you
Yes,
know.
that's what I'm hearing. But what I did want to note was one
Mhm.
thing that Shannon said. He's like, "Oh, aren't you afraid to be blackballed?"
Yes, that's where I was
Right?
going with this. Yeah.
Oh, was that what you were gonna?
No, no,
Sorry.
yeah, that was what I
Yeah.
forgot. Yeah, but go on, go on, go on.
So, and he's like, blackballed. I own everything.
Yep, everything he
What you
does.
mean? Huh? No, I own it all. All these specials that you're seeing, all of this, comedy tours that I'm going on, I fund it. I own it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And as a businessman, I think he is brilliant. He has taken full control over his brand, and he's reaping what he puts in,
Mhm.
and nobody else. I mean, I'm sure obviously there's people that have to get their cut to do the actual tour, or
Mhm.
whatever special, but he owns it. So as
Mhm.
we see it over and over on Netflix or on Tubi or wherever, okay,
Yeah.
the money is going into his pocket. And I thought that was actually really brilliant. Really, really brilliant. But that's all I wanted to say about that. And so when he answered him, blackballed,
Yeah.
huh?
And that's one
I'm not
thing
doing
again.
any of this for cloud. I don't.
Yeah, that's one thing again that I think that I've always known about him, in terms of outside of like the people that he's not a big fan of, is he, and that's how he's been able to survive, by upfronting all of his tours and his comedy specials. He's had a lot of control, and obviously more profit margin by doing that. So kudos to Kat. Looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to seeing more of him. I hope he's covered, and he is actually covered by the grace of gods, and we hope
Amen.
the world continues to see his talents, and I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay. Hope he just had
Yes.
something to get off his chest, and that's that.
Yes, but Cat William, Lord of mercy, next time you're going to do that, please let me know what going Richard, cause I nearly bust a gut. You're you you can't come at us like that, man. Like we're not prepared, we're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
But what we'll move on into, and what we are prepared for right now, is the workouts. Yeah.
The workouts.
Yes, this is where we usually work out our hearts and exercise our mental fitness with deep dive discussions. And so, with it being a new year, 2024,
Mm-hmm.
it's a new year, people. It's a new year. And so, we want to talk about the new year and things that we can look forward to in the new year, things that we hope to achieve, accomplish, or to even just be a part of. And so, let's talk about the new year, a new page. And so, for me, I am not the type that likes to make New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah,
Never
me
been
neither.
that person. However, there's always I always like to make goals, right? I always like to achieve things, no matter how big or how small. And so, some things that I'm looking forward to in the new year, you know, better health, better
Of
health,
course. Yeah.
which is definitely something that we should all be looking into, seeing that we just came off of this panini, this pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
but also making memories.
Yeah.
This year, I want to make some memories. I don't know what that means. Don't ask. I just know in my brain that the more memories that I can make, I think the best year that I'll have.
Of course.
And,
Yeah.
those memories can take shape in whatever way. That's why I want to leave it very broad for myself. And health as well. Health is not just my physical body, but yeah, I need to deal with that too, but my mental,
Mm.
and
Yep.
staying focused and getting through the winter and the winter blues,
Mm.
and having a hope for the future and things that I want to see happen that will make me smile, make me have some fun, create some memories that I can remember, take some pictures that I can keep. Just be in company with people who have a positive disposition, who
Yes.
who really genuinely want to live and have positivity in their life and in their heart and have good times and good moments. So, to be more specific, I'm gonna let you talk about what you're thinking for your next page, your new
Mm.
year, and I'll think of specifics in the meantime.
Yeah, and if you don't have specifics, that's okay. I think that sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
I like to keep it general for the
You're
most
looking
part.
forward to making new memories and capturing that,
Yes,
and
yes.
I think that's like super important. I think Gen Z is really good at capturing it. It might even be fake, but they're really good at capturing it. But is it real? I don't know. And then with some of us millennials, especially if we're a little bit older, I think capturing it is a hard part, because you're not the first person I've heard say that. And they're usually people who are not like heavy on the social media, but it's still, you don't need to be on social media to capture moments. However you want to share it, you share it, or you have, even if it's just for you and your family, you have it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, so New Year's. So I guess the perspective that I always have for New Year's, if I think about like, it's weird because I'll caveat, like when I was growing up, there was a period, not like when I was super young, but there was a period, I would say from the time of around, mm, let's say at least 14, around 13, 14 ages, all the way up until I, maybe late 20s. Every New Year, or most New Years, not every New Year, because I got rebellious, is that my parents go to watch night service, or night service to bring in the New Year. And so when you grow up with that and you experience that, as a kid, you're like, what the hell, man? What are you doing here so long? I want to go home. Like, it's like
Mhm.
bad enough I have to go to church for New Year's Eve, but like we're
Mhm.
staying here so long because the church that they went to, the midnight wasn't the end of it. Like you were praying until at least 1 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
And so that was that. And then obviously when I got into my 20s and college and stuff, I did the party thing a few times. I did the party thing.
Yeah.
And one thing I could say is the party thing was never worth it. The
No.
New Year's Eve party was never worth the effort, the money. It was just the planning. It was never worth it. I
No. No.
always
No.
hated it. I was always cold as hell, drunk as hell. I just want to be in my bed. And it's so hard to get home.
In the
And it's
warmth,
just,
man.
and
Jeez.
so anticlimactic. It always felt like empty and useless when I went to party for New Year's Eve in my 20s and stuff like that. So, sometime like in my early 30s, like even though I stopped going, I moved out and I stopped going to church with my parents, I still decided to be like, okay, my sisters went to a church where they have a similar service and it ends right after, pretty much right after the ball drop. So more up my alley. But it is a time where I set my intentions and say that gap between the 31st and the new year
Mhm.
is about, I gratitude. And so
Mhm.
I thank God for the previous year and bringing me to this exact moment where I get to look the next year in the eyes, in this case
Mhm.
2024 in the eyes. I also ask him for guidance going into the next year, whatever that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Obviously continue the blessings that have been there, but also help me for those times where, it'll be tough.
Yeah.
Give me tools, shed light,
Yeah.
bring people into my life where, new and good things will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I see that that's generally how I always go into the new year, is that
Mhm.
I think God for the year that passed, and I ask God for what I want or need or hope for in the next year. And
Yeah.
obviously, some of that has to do with me as well. So something that I want to work on, I think, in 2024 is staying connected.
Mhm.
I didn't do a good job this year. I think last year was like my worst year of that. But I want
Yeah.
to work on it. And I'm like I said, I'm not trying to punish myself for not doing it, but I think starting the year with that intention will still make you
Mhm.
cognizant, and it'll help you put a little bit more effort than to just seeing an issue and saying you want to do it and not, so I think that is something I want to get better at, and also take advantage of, like I said, in this new year, it's a time of renewal. I always start the year with a lot of energy.
Mhm.
So, like, it's just a fact, and I think most people do. It's just the fact it's a new year. You start fresh. All the bullshit, all the nonsense, whatever happened in the previous year, whatever disappointments, whatever, it's done. The year's done. Everything's done. That's what you know what I
It's
mean.
over. Yeah, I know.
And so now it's like time to start fresh, and like that refreshing energy can go into whatever you want it to be. A lot of people talk about like working out. So now is the time when the gyms are like packed or they're rammed, because
Mhm.
everybody's resolution or goal has something to do with weight. Because in the winter, especially in the holiday, you do a lot of eating and stuff. You probably might add in a few
Mhm.
pounds, and you're feeling guilty, and so you have the energy now to get into the gym.
Right. But
But mm,
and health is always, I feel, something that we should work on every day, every
every day,
hour.
yeah. So it's kind of
You know,
nonsense when people. It is
it
bullshit when
is. It is.
the
That's why
gym is
I don't
packed.
like resolutions, or I don't like
Yeah,
to
yeah.
I'd like
No.
to
So what?
redirect that energy into something I know that I can
Yes,
achieve. You know
exactly.
what I
So the
mean? And
energy,
be
that's really,
consistent with. You have to
yeah,
be consistent, because after January 31st, right? And you sign up for the new
yeah.
membership,
The new membership, yeah. And
right?
they're taking money out of your account in February, and you haven't been
Every
to the gym.
month, right? And you know it's hard as hell to cancel them damn memberships. For some reason, it's the hardest thing to man to cancel a gym membership. But
Yes,
anyhow,
true.
you need to focus on health of mind as
Yes,
well. I feel like they kind of go hand in hand,
you do.
especially with exercising, endorphins and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Anyway, but I think health of mind, to get up every day, even though sometimes it might be hard, and sometimes we might not have the answers, and we have to look to God, and we have to wait on God for when
Mm.
He's ready to expose the answer, or to align us in a position to receive a blessing. So, you know, staying mentally healthy is very important. And
Very
so,
important.
we've talked in the past on our different episodes of how you can do that, or how you can invest time in doing that for yourself, as
Mm-hmm.
just as an idea to get started, and then you go from there. New a new year and a new page is, we get one every single day. We get a new page every single day,
Yeah, it's true.
right? And when the new year comes, I think of it like it's a continuum. However, I have left things behind, because your past is your past, your present is your present, and your
Mm-hmm.
future is unknown. And so I know I have a past, but it is a continuum of a constant trying to better self, right? In whatever shape or form
Mm-hmm.
that might be. And so for some people, it's signing up for the gym membership. And for some people, it's getting a library card,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
for some
Taking a
other people,
course.
like, right. And so I feel like there's a constant renewal of yourself that you should be aiming to make,
Mm-hmm.
that you should be trying to continue, because when you shed that old skin, this old skin is still there. You know about it, you know what happened, and you're going forward with something new, with what you've learned, right? And so it's a continuous thing, it's a continuous growth. And in the meantime, in between time, whatever goals you might want to set for yourself. I know for me, God is very important, and I do thrive to have a closer relationship with him every day. Like literally every day I wake up hoping to be closer to him and learning more about him and trying to figure out ways where I can stay close.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever out there, your listeners, what helps you get through that day, that month, that year, whatever aspirations you want to build for yourself, let it be positive ones because they're easier to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Positive direction and hoping for another page in your book of life, right? And everybody has a different book to write, and we're blessed to see another year. We're blessed that this is 2024. There's a lot of things out here that are going on around us, and I think to stay positive is it's hard in itself. And so whatever positivity you can gain in your new year, I really hope that for everybody. I hope that for you, Jeanette, for my family,
Mm.
for my
Of
friends,
course,
for
yes.
you listeners out there. Life is short. So live
Mm.
it positively.
Yep.
You know, takes too much energy. It takes more muscles in your face to frown than it does to smile.
To smile.
Right? And so that says a lot. It takes a less energy to
Yeah.
be positive than it does to be negative. So hold on to the positivity in your life, everybody. Hold on to the
Yeah.
people who are actually in your corner and that wish you the best. And whatever your aspirations are for 2024, I hope you all achieve them, whatever
Or
that
get
might
closer to
be,
them.
right? Get closer
Mm.
and closer to them.
Yes.
This year, I want to start making my own pasta.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, I've been starting to think about, the food industry and all the food that we eat and things. My mind has been going racing, and I've said, you know what? I want to start making more of my own food.
Okay. I love it.
That's just a small aspiration of mine. That's a memory that I will create because I've never really done it on my own. Don't
Mm.
come for me, listeners. I haven't done it on my own. I know it's super simple, but I haven't done it yet, okay?
It's
Just leave me
actually
alone.
yeah.
I'm going to do it, but that will be a memory for me to achieve in the future,
Mm.
as small as it might be, right?
Mm.
So we do want to wrap up the show and leave it on a positive note. And positivity is the note that we want to continue going on for 2024 over here
Mm-hmm.
at Hearts and Minds. That's what
Yep.
we want to do over here. Okay. And Katt Williams, you honestly, bruh, you made it
Bruh.
easy. You made it easy for me. And so we do hope that your hearts and minds were activated on this week's show. So whether you lead with your heart or your mind, please stay passionate and thoughtful. We'll talk to y'all real soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.